And do that for out the car.
CPR could work.
CPR.
What kind of mic is it?
A dead one.
It's a Samsung.
Oh, the Q2U?
Yeah, I've been using for ages, and all of a sudden,
So you have, is it connected up through USB or XLR?
USB.
What?
But that's how I've always used it. And it's always worked.
USB.
Oh, USB.
Is it connected through a hub or direct to your computer?
Direct to the computer.
Oh,
That's the way it's always been.
Yeah, that's the way to do that.
No, nothing works on this machine. None of my third-party apps are installed. Everything's broken.
Forever.
Everything's broken.
I think the Russians are
Brittany,
taking over Apple.
that's not what you want, just so you know.
Everything is broken.
It's fixed. It's fixed. It has a new logic board and all the things. But it feels broken because none of my apps are on it yet.
Yeah, I get that.
Technical.
We hear you. We hear you.
You're all orange.
What are we talking about tonight?
Browser wars.
Browsers.
It's terrible. It's terrible, terrible. That's why I'm here.
Where's your
This is
popcorn, Warren?
It's a bad conversation to have or to argue about. I'm just here to stir the pot, Ashley, to
Stir the pot.
tell you you're all crazy for liking this browser or that browser and why
As
it's
long as no one jumps out with the Tor browser, I think we'll be okay.
I haven't tried that. I hear good things about them.
Yeah, like they just got hacked on Saturday.
No, I'm a big
Oh,
fan
did
of
How
Net-
did they get
Big
hacked?
end node.
Yeah.
The onion router, I guess the end nodes there was an attack on them.
That's ironic.
Don't you think?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
A little
Okay.
too ironic.
like a fly in your Chardonnay.
Well, let's get started. And to the live
Well
stream
done,
folks.
well done, Brittany.
Yeah. To
Look,
the live.
What's in the seventh circle of Dante's Inferno?
I wonder if
Yeah.
you might want to wait a little bit because it just showed up on YouTube like seconds
Yeah.
ago.
I just started it. So, hello, YouTube folks. Sorry about that. We were a little late getting the stream up to you.
Chuck
So-
makes the trains run on time.
I don't know about that. I tried to.
But only in former Soviet Union.
I think there's
So-
no one there yet. I'm the only one watching.
No, I've got. Well, there were 3. Now we're down to 0. Don't understand that. That was weird.
Well, we chased them
There's
away
got to
that
be
fast.
one. I'm watching it.
There we go.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got 2 now. So we'll go ahead and do it.
It's like a
and guys-
telethon.
Yeah,
of
and
them's
guys, I'm going to pull the plug just a little earlier than normal. In other words, we're not going to go to 10 o'clock tonight. So
Oh, I'm going to do an hour and a half.
yeah, I'm going to try to keep it to about an hour, a
let's
little
try-
less maybe, or a little
let's
more.
try to-
but-
So let's
stop,
try.
Stop.
Yeah.
It's
So
a challenge. Are you challenging us to?
He's got something else to do.
no, I'm just saying that actually I do have other things to do tonight. So but that's a
Oh,
whole
there.
other discussion.
Give me-
Don't leave it alone, Brittany. I saw that. I saw that look.
So button is on snow and see if it sticks.
What?
Yeah, you heard
I'm
me.
not even going there.
What that means? Okay. So
It's
let's
a
do
Florida
this.
thing.
Yeah,
Florida thing. Yeah.
is it?
Gotta be. All right.
In
In
doubt.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is MacVoices Live. We are live on YouTube. We do this every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We would love to have you join us. We have people joining us as we speak in the YouTube chat room, and so we welcome their comments and thoughts and agreements and disagreements and all of that stuff. So tonight we titled the show Browser Wars because it sounds really good. But we're not going to. I don't think there's going to be exactly war declared. It's just one of those things that everybody uses a browser, and everybody needs to make some choices about what browser they're using. So that's what we're going to do. But before that, a couple things here. First, we're going to introduce the panel, and then we're going to do one other topic ahead of that one, and then we'll get to browser wars. So I'm going to go around the room as I always do with on my screen. Mr. David Ginsberg is here. David, good to have you as always.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to another great chat tonight.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. Judging by what we saw in the Slack, there's a bit of interest in this, I think.
Yes.
Jeff Gammett has joined us from Denver. And Jeff, I understand Denver has now been declared a desert.
Well, it's been a desert for several thousand years. So yeah, it's just new. Yeah.
Okay. There was seriously, there was something on the news this morning that, you guys have lost your, what was it, the subtemperate or subtropical zone or something, and now you're designated as a desert. So who knew?
So we've gone from semi-arid to full arid designation.
Apparently so.
You
Oh,
sure it
well, I
wasn't
missed that one.
dessert?
Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, thanks. The downside is that means all you other states that have been buying water for us, you're screwed.
Okay.
I didn't buy any water from you.
Well, you're okay, Brittany.
Yeah. That's starting to get into a political discussion. We will save that for another time. Guy Searle is here. Guy, welcome. Good to have you.
Hello. I have to say, it does make me laugh when you say we're going to talk about one thing and then go into another topic. That has not been my experience on this show.
Yeah, well, this time I think we can make it work, and you'll see why in a minute.
All right.
Yeah. Brittany Smith is here, fresh off some computer repairs, but glad to have her. Brittany, welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Warren Sklar showed up without popcorn to make fun of all of us apparently tonight. Warren, good to have you.
I'm just stirring a pot. I'm good. Just want to let you know, Pennsylvania is also declared a desert today. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, just let you know.
Okay. Okay. Well, then you can't buy water from us either. Jim Ray has joined us. Jim, good to have you as always.
I have full faith in you keeping us on track.
Save that for the real.
Yeah, even I have to laugh at that one, Jim. Jay Miller and his monster microphone are here again. Jay, good to have you.
I'm just here to say, Kyrgyzstan, $9 a night for a full townhouse. And I mean, the view looks amazing, and I don't think it is a desert. So,
road trip.
And it looks remarkably like the same apartment you're always in.
Okay. Frank Petrie is here as well. Frank, welcome. Good to have you.
Well, thank you. Wouldn't have me anywhere else. So this is where I be.
Well, that's good. That's good. And sneaking in under the wire and rearranging my topic for the night, Andrew Orr. Andrew, good to have you.
Hey, glad I made it. Good to be here. I'm in a bountiful grassland.
So we can buy water from you, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Good. Good.
The right price.
Good.
Yeah. Down at AP Butler, they sell water in Philly.
Well,
you just have to outsell or outbid Nestle.
Oh,
That might
we're
be
all
tough.
screwed.
That might be
not?
tough
Okay.
because they're
Why
the
not?
biggest water.
Okay. I missed that one. So I said the topics got rearranged because I had communicated with Andrew earlier today, and there was just one follow-up story that he wrote up for the Mac Observer that I wanted to touch on because it was something we talked about an episode or two ago when we were talking about chat clients and privacy and all. And so, Andrew, I'll let you kind of take it away with the most recent development with WhatsApp.
Yeah, so it sounds like Facebook, they own WhatsApp. It sounds like they are implementing a new privacy policy that it sounds like they are already setting on their end, and they've been asking people, do you accept or do you not? And so let's see, I have this article up right now. So it sounded like before that their terms was accept this privacy policy or your account will be deleted. And in this privacy policy, it sounds like they want to, bring you into the fold and share your data with their advertisers. But they had a slight change recently. And so let's see. So it sounds like your account won't be deleted, but some features on your account will be limited if you do not accept the new conditions. So let's see, it says you won't be able to access your chat list, but you can still answer incoming phone and video calls. And then if after a few weeks of limited functionality, you won't be able to receive incoming calls or notifications, and WhatsApp will stop sending messages and calls to your phone if you don't accept these new terms.
That kind of makes the app worthless.
Well, it drives people away. So what do they think they can gain by that? It's just going to push people away even further.
They're not going to care.
Yeah, people don't care. They're clicking through. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not freaking out.
Believe me, they're not.
This is why Facebook never should have raised a fuss, because if they had really thought it through, they would have known that the vast majority of people that are using these free services are just going to continue to use those free services because they're free, and they don't really seem to care until it comes back to bite them in the ass, and they might not even know where that ass biting came from.
Well, and people have a very short memory as well. I mean, when Facebook, when Facebook started the whole click through to accept the new terms of service several months ago, people freaked out, and we got through that wave, and people forgot about it. And now we have the new wave with the different terms, where instead of just saying you're locked out of your account, we're going to hobble your account, which is essentially locking you out of it. And so we're getting that now, and people are suddenly freaking out, completely forgetting that we already went through this several months ago with WhatsApp. So people don't care. They'll click through. The people that were really concerned about what Facebook was going to do with their personal information and invading into their privacy, they've already moved on to Signal and Telegram.
And I just feel like this is, if you remember when we had this discussion before, we had a big conversation about the messages that popped up after you installed iOS 14.5, I think it was, that said it did the required thing that Apple made them do, but it kind of threatened that this was needed to keep Facebook free. So there's an implied threat there, and now we have this. That, well, if you don't agree to our terms of service, we're basically going to deprecate your app to the point that you just won't care. And I mean, this is like strong arm tactics of the worst kind. If you're going to do it, then just say, look, these are the terms, or else. But it feels just a little worse than that. By just say, okay, this is how it is. Use it or not, and that I would be fine with that. But use it, or if you don't agree to what we're going to, we're just going to take it away from you in bits and pieces and then just make it unusable. I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. And I specifically wanted Andrew to come on and give us an update on that, because folks, if you're using Facebook, you need to be aware of some of this stuff, just the methodologies that they're using to try to continue to get your information.
Well, I mean, what they basically do is that they come in and they say, okay, well, you're not going to be able to do this little thing unless you hit this button. And for the people that don't hit that button, they wait a couple of days and go, okay, now you can't do this thing unless you hit this button. And they just keep doing that over and over again until they either leave the app or they hit the button that lets them get what they wanted in the first place. And frankly, most people aren't going to have the patience to go through that. So they're just going to go ahead and first time that button comes up, click, they're just going to click it right through.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
That's the other half of that. So as I wrote before in the past, we've talked about this on our own podcast at the Mac Observer. one of the big major features of iOS 14.5 is called app tracking transparency, which just means that if an app wants to track you, it wants to use your data for advertising, the system will pop up a little window that says, do you want to allow this or not? And Facebook has been sending a message to people in the Facebook and Instagram apps. I don't know if they did this in WhatsApp or not. I haven't seen that, but they just say, please allow this, please let us collect your data. And some of the reasons they give, it can help make the app free. It can help support small businesses on our platform, which at the same time is kind of true, right? Like that's one of the big kind of sayings in the privacy circle is, if you're not paying for it, then you're other product. And so there are a lot of legitimate services that do subsidize their services with advertising. But the distinction that we wanted to make is that Apple is only stopping Facebook and other companies from collecting user data across other apps and websites. Apple does not have any control over the data collection that is done on these in the app themselves. So for example, even if you click don't allow, I don't want Facebook to collect my data, they're still going to collect your data inside the app themselves. That's part of their terms and conditions. And so you're probably still going to get ads anyway, and they probably still will be personalized, AKA they're still going to be using your data because that's just how Facebook is.
Just again, we don't want to beat this one to death, folks, but just be aware and pay attention when you're seeing those pop-ups. And especially when it comes to a Facebook property, it just feels like you really got to pay extra attention because they're trying to skirt the rules. They're trying to kind of rewrite the rules, create their own rules. And if you're okay with it, then hey, that's fine. We're okay with you being okay with it as long as you're informed. As long as you're informed.
Keep an eye out for Herr Zuckerberg.
Yeah. You're tipping your hand as to your position, Frank. Okay, so browsers. That's what we advertised tonight, and that's what I want to make sure we talk about. But I want to start at the very basic level because we have, I don't even know how many browsers are out there right now, but we will inevitably get into that. But Jeff, I'm going to start with you. I would like for you to explain to us why anybody cares which browser we use. Not the user, but the manufacturer of these browsers. Since they're all given away, what do they get out of it? Are we back to the personal information thing?
For many browsers, yes. So if you're using say Google Chrome, that's the best example. Google Chrome is harvesting information from you. Many of the browsers that are built on Chromium, which is the open source code base for Google Chrome, will do the same thing. And that harvested information goes to Google or whoever else. For other companies like Apple with Safari, it's more about user lock-in. If you give a user all the tools they need to stay within your platforms, then they're less likely to leave. And if you give someone a default tool, it's just part of the installation, they're more likely to use that than to go and download something else. And then there are other browsers, like when you get over into things like Brave and Firefox, then you're getting into browsers where their vested interest is more about maintaining the platform and providing a level of privacy, but then maybe having other services that they sell, and those services may not even be to end users. It might be services that cater to enterprise or back end, other big businesses.
So they have a vested interest in promoting the use of their browser, and they could be Apple, Google, what you just say, Brave, I'm blanking out. Opera. Yeah, thank you. Opera, Firefox.
The Vivaldi people are going to be coming after you soon.
What, Jay?
Vivaldi, they're going to come after you soon.
Vivaldi is coming. Yeah. Yep.
So here's my question though to Jeff and everybody, and this is a real question. If you use Chrome and you're searching on Google, I'm sorry, if you're on Safari and you're searching on Google and Facebook and you're just doing things that are very not private, Amazon, things like that, compared to going on Chrome and searching DuckDuckGo through a VPN, is it the site that you're on, or is there something inherently built into Chrome that I've never been able to actually see that's actually collecting and sending data out to somewhere?
With Google Chrome, it's actually built into the browser. So that would be in addition to any tracking cookies or other tracking methods that websites or servers might be using. And for some people, that's what makes Microsoft Edge an appealing alternative to Google Chrome, because it uses the Chromium engine, but doesn't have the inherent always-on activity tracking that comes along with Google Chrome. Now, of course, it doesn't matter what browser you're using. If you log into a Google account and then start searching and hopping from website to website, at that point, Google is just able to track all of your activity simply because you're logged into your Google accounts.
I don't think that's why most people use Edge, though, is because they're worried that Google's tracking them. I think at least the people that I've asked, why are you using Edge? They say because Chrome is slow and it's a resource hog and it sucks. And unfortunately, there are so many applications out there that I can't use Safari with because of WebRTC issues and other compatibility issues. And I mean, if you look at any analytics tool, you'll see most of your users are coming from Chrome. So people develop for Chrome. And with Edge, you get that same Chromium engine that is the basis bare bones of Chrome, but for some reason it just performs better. And I mean, I think people ultimately are just like, Google, your app is crazy, resource intensive. We see these posts that people come out and they say, hey, there's this thing that if you run this application, Chrome just runs faster. And all it is shutting down different processes that are running that we have no idea what it's doing. And then all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, there's something wrong with Chrome. Chrome's bloated. Chrome has all this stuff in it. And it's like, I think people could care less what is happening with their data if they're not presented with a notification that says, hey, this is happening with your data, you should do something. I think ultimately people are just tired of their applications bringing their $2,000 laptops to a grinding halt.
I'll tell you one thing. I just opened up Chrome on my Mac for the first time in a while, and it's flying a lot faster than Edge was. And I think they just did an update not that long ago. So I mean, I read that they are trying to fix that memory hog stigma that they have, but I've been using Edge for so I haven't been able to compare it.
Yes, Jay, I switched to Edge from Chrome. I was using Chrome because I needed it for very specific job-related plugins. And then when Edge came along, I thought, okay, I'll switch over because it doesn't have the tracking. And then for me, the incredible bonus was, holy crap, this is fast. But I think you're right. I think most people that are using Edge are doing it because it's just faster, or because that's what came installed on their computer.
I'll put an enterprise spin on this. Google Chrome and Edge. Of course, we expect Microsoft being able to be managed. So all the browsers can be managed in one way or another, where they can put in policies and restrict what people can and cannot do. A lot of companies go with like Google Chrome. They want to be able to block all the plugins or the extensions because they have some vulnerabilities. They have to protect systems so things aren't causing problems. So before Microsoft switched to Chromium Edge, I mean, they had their own base, they had their Microsoft Edge, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It was just, it was like, it ranked like probably number 2 to Internet Explorer, if I can want to save that word, because that's just probably one of the worst browsers they're ever known to man. So same thing with Firefox. And all the browsers, which is nice, they're scalable. You actually can lock things down and keep things secure, and they've made it very easy. I mean, Google made it very easy. Like, then they've got systems in place where you can just go in and create a plist for a Mac, let's say, and be able to control what you want as far as that setting, and the same thing with Edge. Edge, but I definitely noticed performance improvements with Edge for sure. Chrome's getting there. I think all the Chromium-based browsers are up to version 90 now. So I mean, then they've really gone a long way. I use Firefox primarily on my Mac, and I tend to like Firefox. I've just been used to it for so long, and I think my Firefox has gotten a lot better because it was slow at points too, but I think it's improved as well. But all the corporate. So what's the thing with enterprise? They all look at all those browsers and they want to lock it down to just one browser or one or two browsers and try to keep a control so it's safe.
I have a question for Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
You said that if you use Safari but you're logged into your Google account, then Google can track you anywhere. What's the mechanism for that? Like, if I visit apple.com but I'm logged into my Google account, how could Google track that in Safari?
I don't understand exactly how it all works, not being a coder.
Well,
but that's what's supposed to happen. When you log into a Google account in a browser, then Google is tracking your activity from that point forward. If you're not logged into a Google account in Safari, then you get all the benefits that go along with using Safari as far as privacy goes.
I don't see how they would have to patch Safari somehow in a way that I don't see Apple allowing them to do that.
Yeah, Andrew, do you know more about this than I do?
Let's see. I know Google has made recent moves. They're trying to come up with a new and improved tracking system. It's called FLoC. I think it stands for Federated Learning of Cohorts. And it sounds like they're trying to do more browser-based tracking as opposed to like these third-party cookies that other companies can put on your browser. I don't have more information off the top of my head, but it kind of sounds like what you're talking about.
But that's something that browser makers have to incorporate, and Apple has announced that we're absolutely having no part of that.
Well, yeah, that's the great part is that Apple is not building it into Safari. I think Firefox is not doing that as well. I think maybe one or two other browser makers did that too. So they are getting some pushback.
So if you're
I'm
logged
assuming
into...
that part of what Google is doing is taking advantage of the fact that that they've put a lot of code out there for web developers to use. And for example, if you're using Google Analytics, then you're putting some Google code into your website, and I'm assuming they're just linking into that code that they already have, because it's sending data back to servers anyhow, and they're just attaching your account to that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you visit pages that are using Google code, and Analytics is probably the biggest one, but I'm pretty sure there's no Google code on any of Apple pages. That's why I used Apple as my example.
Okay, so that's actually a really good example. Maybe it probably is limited just to websites that are using Google code at that point, which is probably a lot of websites.
It is, I'm sure it's a lot, but you said universal, so that I was kind of like, really?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's
definitely...
probably not really universal.
It's a lot, but
And this is called Flock.
No. Flock is another thing that Google is trying to do in the future. But the point is, right now, if you're logged into a Google account,
yeah,
and you visit a site that, say, uses Google Analytics, Google is going to get that information of, oh, you visited.
Okay. I don't know. Flock just sounds like some kind of James Bond villain organization.
Kind of, Flock is, basically, as Jeff was saying, Chrome, it's built into the browser itself. So even if you visit apple.com, Google knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
And Google is like, yeah, this is great. We want this, all the time, no matter what browser you're using. So other browser makers, I don't know what they're smoking. Apple is never going to put this in Safari. So
that's why I can't use Safari or Firefox for work. I have to use Chrome because that's what work is telling me I have to use.
Mm-hmm.
Or a Chromium, or probably a Chromium based browser.
Well, that has to do with what David was saying. Yeah, that's what David was saying, that that they allow them to lock that down. So
yeah.
Well, I think there's two issues though. I think there's the issue of tracking, and then there's the issue of just the web browser working. Like, I usually have Chrome open on my computer because there's just some, I primarily use Safari, but there's just some websites, they just don't work. And it's basically like I'll go to something and go like, oh, Safari, and I'll be like, oh, this content isn't showing up. Or for example, I use Bitbucket issue tracker and it doesn't work in Safari. And it's kind of like the old IE days where I think it was Jay saying, Google's got the web development tools that are sort of like the most commonly used, and so web developers are like, oh, well, I'll just make it work in Chrome, and I'll assume that means it works everywhere, and that's not true.
Well, Jeff and I ran into this the other night. We were testing a podcasting platform, and they said specifically that you have to use Chrome. And Jeff tried it with what was it, Edge?
It was with Edge,
and it did not work properly. Shift over to Chrome, and it works great. And I have mixed feelings about this because part of me, Jim, as you just said, this smacks of the old IE days, and what happened to open standards and open access. And I get it. Okay, so some companies can jump through some hoops with, if you use a specific browser, but at what cost? And here we go again. We seem to be harping on this a lot, but is it the cost of our privacy, our data? And honestly, I've forgotten, and I'm embarrassed to say I probably have logged in to it, but can I use Chrome without logging into a Google account?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. It's been so long since I've been prompted that I just figured.
Well, the weird thing is it's still, even if you're not logged in, it still kind of knows that it's you just based on prior activity. But there's almost no reason to not log in, because if you're going to use Chrome as a browser, the benefits of being logged into a Google account to use Chrome as a browser is far greater than not being logged in. It's like one of the benefits of using something like Safari is you've got the built-in password generator and keeper. So, for things like banking and some of the other things that I do, I just, even though I have one password, I just automatically go ahead and use Safari because it's one click and my password is safe and it's going into whatever website it needs to go into. So whether it's credit cards or banking or whatever, Safari for me is the more secure and less intrusive browser.
Mm-hmm. All the browsers have an option where if you sign in, it will sync your browsers across devices. So same with Safari, because Safari is doing the same thing with your iCloud. So they're all doing that, and Chrome was one of the first browsers, I think, that had the syncing across the browsers.
About for bookmarks?
Well, it started with
settings and bookmarks.
Settings, bookmarks, and then passwords, right? It grabbed the passwords.
See, I would not trust every single time I'm in Chrome. Every time I'm in Chrome and I get a password prompt, I always get that, save password for future use. It's like, no.
Well,
yeah,
let me ask you this, guy. Why are you saying no? They already know it.
Not if I don't put it in there. They don't know it.
Well, if you don't enter the password, sure.
Well, you're entering the password.
If you enter the password,
if you're now for things like Facebook or things, social media accounts, I don't care, because those are the kinds of activities where it's like, okay, so you get my Facebook account.
But
I don't care.
I'm saying,
but for the stuff that I do care about, even with stuff like Facebook or Twitter, just for reasons, I won't click that box.
But what I'm saying is, if you're seeing the box save password for future use, that means you just entered the password. Okay, so
not necessarily. A lot of times that checkbox comes up by default on the enter your password box without even having put in a password yet.
So getting back to the idea of tracking, I guess the disclosure here is I work for a database company, one that Andrew actually just wrote about recently because there was some stuff, but that wasn't us. That was people not doing their job. Anyway, one of the things that we do is we have the ability to run all of the Nginx logs from a web server into our database, and we can visualize it. So I have a website that I literally don't do much with, but it gets a small trickle of web visits every single day. I don't run Google Analytics. I don't run anything other than React and Nginx, which is serving this to people. You have to serve it somehow. I can still see where all of this traffic is coming from. Now, granted, if someone uses a VPN, it tells me it's coming from the middle of Kyrgyzstan, not, San Diego, California. And that's great. But this is even without giving my information to Google to look at, without figuring anything other than just user asked my server for information and I had to be able to send it to them. And my thing is, if I can do this just on my little $5 a month server that I'm just running and hosting by myself, what can Google do when they are getting this information and more from thousands, actually probably at this point, millions of websites every single day, every single hour? Another million records from all the different sites. And I can look at what IP addresses they came from. And if I can put two and two together, I can see what browsers people are using. I can see what operating systems people are using. I can see what version of operating systems that people are using. If I can get all of that information just from someone making a server request and me not asking for any more data, what is Google able to do with all of the information that they're asking for?
Well, you can see the operating system in that information because the browser is sending it to you. That's not required for communication. You could do it in curl, and somebody that wants to keep that secret could lie about it.
Yeah.
But the thing about Google is that they're and the thing about the reason why they don't do it the way you're doing it is because people do run through VPNs and all kinds of stuff like that. But when Google's got trackers, that means they're actually running code on your machine. And that does punch right through VPNs and stuff like that.
And they can also they can say okay, if the next 100 sites that Chuck goes and visits has Google Analytics, that same packet of information that is sent to my site is also being sent to all of those sites. And now Google is seeing all of that. And they can put two and two together and say, wow, Chuck sure likes going to Amazon and buying all this stuff. And then he likes going to, this other place, and he likes buying Nestle water from this company. Maybe I can prioritize the ads from this place over here that has all those things for Chuck, which Chuck sees as a great thing, except for Chuck never gave them permission to do that. And also, they can go back to the ads and say, I have top level intel that says Chuck wants this ad. How much are you going to pay for that, knowing that the odds of getting a sell because Google's doing its thing in the background, like the value is just way higher than what anyone else can provide, other than, well, the other victim in the room that we've talked about today, which is Facebook, because Facebook is just doing the exact same thing, except for, every once in a while they'll fuss about Apple, telling them, hey, stop that.
Listen, Jay, I agree with you, and I don't want to get too hung up on the privacy thing here, as strange as that sounds, because there are other aspects of this discussion that I think are beneficial to the viewers and listeners. That said, I mean, what you're talking about is fingerprinting, and we've known that's been going on for quite some time. You're right. Google can get all this information. It's definitely a little frightening, and unfortunately, about the only thing you can do is try to pick your browser and find one that is not doing some of these things, even though it doesn't sound like there's any browser out there that can just completely make you 110% anonymous. Because
Safari's pretty good at it. If you're not logged into a service app, will automatically track you. But Safari is doing a lot to obfuscate who you are. So if a server says, "Hey, what web browser are you running?" Safari. Okay, what kind of Mac are you on?
Safari.
Yeah, Safari, and I'm on a generic iMac. And then when they go to build their thumbprint of who you are, then they start asking things like, well, what fonts do you have installed? Because once you start doing that, you can really narrow down a profile on someone really fast. And Safari returns a generic list of fonts. And so they're just presenting this basic information that they've made up, and that goes a long way to keeping who you are private. But I mean, geez, there's so many tactics. It's so hard to keep us all private.
The thing is, with Chrome, they don't have to use those tricks. They've got an app installed on your computer. So whether you're logged in or not, Chuck, you were. I wanted to follow up on that because you were asking about using Chrome without logging in, but that doesn't really make that much difference to Chrome because they have access to the hardware. They know what your Mac ID is. They can find out your Mac serial number, so they can be sending that stuff in. And so if you've ever logged in once, then they've got that information. And then even if you log out, they still can be sending it. And of course, the other thing is that Google is the sort of the consumer that's putting all this stuff together. So it's like you're sending it straight to the people that you maybe don't want it to go to, where the other browsers, that's not the case. At least there's a level of separation from Google.
And it's not like you can just tell it to stop. Like, I mean, you can't run Little Snitch and say, hey, don't be sending none of that Google Chrome stuff anywhere. Because I mean, like, then your browser stops working.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, in the chat room this afternoon, when I announced the topic, in the Slack room, when I announced the topic, you said you're just a pretty vanilla browser guy. Does that just mean you use anything and don't really care, or you?
No. I just end up using Safari. I remember the old days of Internet Explorer and going through Netscape. There used to be, this is going way back, there was a company in Germany that started a browser called Cab.
I loved iCab.
That was that's right, iCab. That was a phenomenal browser.
That was my browser choice for a long time.
And I don't know, every time I go around, I mean, every so many months, you hear something going goofy with another browser and stuff. So it's like, well, if I'm going to fall on my sword, I got all this Apple stuff, or I'll fall on Apple's sword. But, I've heard people, horror stories about other browsers and the thing Andrew was talking about, WhatsApp. A friend of mine, I was trying to tell him to get off it, but his family's from Italy and they've all got WhatsApp and they won't get off it. Mm-hmm. So he's stuck on it. I'm like, dude, they're following you. that's in this country, that's sort of standard. I mean, I always tell people when they say the browser or Google's collecting all this info on you, I said, well, think back to Herbert Hoover when he ran or not Herbert Hoover, who ran the FBI in the 40s?
J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover. He had something on every single president of the United States that he could blackmail them with. And I'm thinking, if they can get stuff on the president, schmuck like me, yeah, they're going to get it.
Frank, that's a long way to think back to. I don't think you're that old.
Oh.
Oh, contraire, mon ami.
Oh, contraire. Jay, I remember when the pyramids were smooth.
David, you just put in the chat room though that iCab apparently still exists.
Yeah, I just Googled it and it's shareware. I think that he wants $10 for it. And yeah, I never, I mean, again, I came late to the Mac game here, so I didn't experience like you guys, some of you guys did. And yeah, I guess it is. It's worth taking a look at again.
Guess what I just installed?
Yeah, I figured you did.
Okay, so right quick, I want to get to Brittany because she has something. But Jeff, what makes this? You were like there were love lights in your eyes when Frank mentioned iCab. What was it, or what is it is that made it such, or makes it such a great browser for you?
Okay, well, iCab. This goes back to what, System 8.5, System 8.6 days, which I suppose kind of dates me. But what made it so great is that it was a really fast browser, and it rendered sites very reliably, and it was a great opportunity, or a great alternative to Internet Explorer, which at that point was actually the default browser that shipped on every Mac you bought.
Yep, starting with System 8.
Yeah, I mean it was great. So and maybe it was even pre-System 8.5 when I was using iCab, but I just loved it. It was just a really versatile, well-designed browser, and at some point it just kind of fell off my radar, and probably when Safari started to be a thing. But yeah, it was great.
It's really interesting because looking at the website, the latest release, the latest update is dated 2021/3/23, so March 23rd. So somebody's keeping this thing up to some degree.
It's clearly using WebKit.
Okay.
So it's the same engine that Safari's using.
Interesting. Brittany, you wanted to talk about cookies. Excuse me.
I just had a funny story. I don't know that I need to have a long conversation about cookies, but they're
now cookies.
I know, right? They're powerful. I mean, I know that the Safari team works really hard to, not have some of the tracking things in, but as a user, it can be really hard to tell. I know somebody who has all of everything off except, block all cookies because, you need the web to work. And he's got all the things off, pretty much only uses his phone to browse the internet, and is showing his girlfriend an article. Well, she scrolls down and there sure is an ad for rings right there, giving away what his search history had been. So yeah, it's a thing that happens. Even when you're using Safari, which is a little bit too bad, but.
Okay, so there have been a couple mentions here of the characteristic that everybody seems to be looking for, and that is fast. Everybody wants their browser to be fast. Why, other than the extra baggage that comes with cookies and all the things we've been talking about up to this point, why is one browser so much faster, or perceived to be so much faster than another? What's happening there?
Well, JavaScript's really important performance nowadays.
I mean, it's also similar to how, I guess you would say, like how logic on M1 Macs is just better now. It's anytime the maker of the operating system is also making the browser, there are just things that they can do. There are things that they may even have access to, system level code that they can do to optimize what they're doing. Now, if they're doing it, I don't know. That's not me. But anytime you're looking at a type of technology, how is this being built? You have to balance the idea of what are all the features, what comes with deploying all of those features, and then what are all those features doing every time you open a web page. And I think this was where one of the things for the longest, honestly, I think the thing that slowed Chrome down more than anything was the fact that people were installing a bunch of third-party extensions. And some extensions are really well designed and some just get the job done. And the way you get the job done is usually not taking into account performance and optimizations on that level. I think there's a big saying in the developer space of like, make it right, or sorry, make it work, make it right, and then make it fast. So
Jay, I have a question for you. Now, every time I've heard someone tell me that they use Chrome, they invariably, almost as a badge of pride, say they have 20 tabs open. Why is that?
That's just people. That's just a thing you can do. If I told you could eat 20 candy bars, I mean, would you not?
I mostly use Safari, and I rarely have less than 100 tabs.
They're flexing the performance of their computer, is what they're saying.
Yeah, but for some reason, it's always when somebody's discussing Chrome, they're like flexing.
It's a gauge. It's a performance gauge. You know how like computers used to give you like a performance index? The more Chrome tabs you could have open without your computer
measuring
catching fire is flexing. So if I say, yo, my computer could run like 40 Chrome tabs, you know, they could say, well, what do you got in that thing? I'm going to say it's like an M1, and they're going to go, whoa.
Brittany mentioned they're flexing. I think the only problem with that is the more tabs you have open, the smaller the tab is.
Well, they don't have to
is that like the inverse correlation for?
It's not the size of the. It's not the size of the tab that matters. It's the.
That's right.
It's the amount of JavaScript it contains.
The amount of code you got in there.
That was good.
Jim, why do you have 100 tabs open?
It's really hard to close them.
What?
You don't want to lose
computer will crash if you close.
You don't want to lose that bookmark.
Wow.
Pop quiz. Who knows what's the max on your iPhone?
There's a
max number of tabs.
500?
At least as of iOS 13. I don't know if it increased in 14.
Isn't it something crazy like 120?
500.
It's 500. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy
on your iPhone.
Mm-hmm. As of iOS 13, I don't know if it increased in 14.
I could see that though, because half the time, like all of my apps are set to pull up websites in the Safari browser. So if it's doing that, I mean, every time it flicks over and goes, oh, I'm opening up Safari. Yeah, it's just probably opening up another tab and then continuing from there. So 500, as much as it seems like a lot, I mean,
one of my favorite features is the auto close tabs after X time.
Yeah. No, delete all. Close all. That's I can tell the age of a person by the amount of tabs they have open on their computer.
Is it like an inverse square?
Or the anxiety level?
Which direction does it go?
The older you are, the more tabs you have, because they don't know how to close them out. And then they'll ask you, they'll say, I was looking at something, about a recipe and I can't find it, and I'll get it. And there's going to be like 100 tabs. I work in a retirement community, so this is stuff like that. So they'll say, I was looking for this web page, and it's like, holy crap, you have 40 tabs open. I have no idea where you just got to close out and start over. They were the same result. Yeah. So yeah, it's that and toolbar. It used to be toolbars. So you could tell how old somebody was, the amount of toolbars.
Yeah, I
feel you on the toolbars.
I was that sounded rude. I was wondering, when you pin a bookmark, is that still necessarily technically open, or is it like in stasis? Like when you have an app, an iPhone, you put it in, you sort of back it down.
Good question.
Now that's a feature I've never used.
Oh, I use it all the time.
4 or 5 that I keep that I know I have to get to, that I'm going to constantly use. I have those pinned. Everything else can come or go. I don't care. The pin ones, they got to stay.
Bigger question is how many people got really lost when Edge started doing the vertical or the horizontal tabs? Like last month they started.
I started doing a happy dance.
Do you have it on or no?
No, but the reason I don't have it on is because I use Workona. So I'd already been doing horizontal tabs.
All right.
Or excuse me, the vertical tab list.
The vertical tabs, yeah.
And it's something that I still love, because yes, I still have it installed from OmniWeb, because it had the drawer. Remember when Mac OS had drawers as part of the interface? And so you had this vertical list of all your tabs. So much better for managing multiple tabs in a web browser. The whole thing with horizontal is garbage.
When it first came out, I'm like creating new tabs. I'm like, they're not there. I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, like I had like 40 on the left-hand side. I'm like, oh, that's where they went.
Guys, I'm looking at the time and we haven't gotten even to a number of things. So let's go for a little while. So much for my idea about getting done on time. But Jeff, I know you mentioned it. I think at least 1 or 2 other people mentioned extensions or add-ons to the browsers as something that definitely enhances functionality, but also, can potentially slow things down. So I'm kind of curious to see what all do any of you have installed that you consider essential or a really good idea? And Guy, I want to start with you because you've been so quiet and it's terrifying.
I know. I've been staying quiet because, basically 1Password, Google Docs offline, uBlock, which is a ad blocker. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary for Chrome. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head what I have for Safari. I'd have to open it up, take a look.
Okay. So that tells me that you're not terribly dependent on them. Either that or they become so integrated into the way you work that you just forget.
Well, remember for Chrome that I use Chrome for work, and there's the more stuff that I put into Chrome as far as extensions goes, the less reliable that it works for me for work. So I try to keep it as basic as I possibly can.
Okay. Makes sense. David, you were commenting on the enterprise earlier. What's the enterprise position on installing any of those things into Google Chrome?
Most of them are blocked. I think most companies these days are and they go through a stringent testing to make sure that first off, are they worth anything? Like password managers, I think a lot of enterprises don't like to use password managers only because they're still worried about storage of that information.
Yeah, offsite. So enterprise, and I definitely can tell you that passwords are not. There might be a few. I can't think off the top of my head of what would be out there as far as specifics. Maybe a VPN if you use a VPN, or those types of plugins. But for the most part, I think enterprise blocks them. I mean, and as far as being able to be allowed. So the cool thing with Chrome is, as far as being able to manage it, you can block all or only specific extensions. So if you want something to be installed, then it opens it up, in the case of a Mac on a P list and the way it sets it up. But they also can block everything if they so choose, and just better be safe. I mean, especially enterprise, a lot of people are doing stuff. Sometimes you don't do it. And believe me, I've been through a lot of security incidents as far as whether or not people are being smart, and they do testing, check to see if they're for phishing scams and other things. And the same thing with browsers. We got to keep them in control. And then Chrome Edge, I think that's where enterprise is going to be. It was Internet Explorer, but now it's Chrome Edge. Yeah, but they don't necessarily want a browser that's going to block them from seeing what their users are doing, especially for the people that are working at home. They want to know it, and it's like when I log into work, it basically says, anything that you're doing in Chrome, we're going to know. We're going to know what it is that you do, even though you're at home. You're not, you're on your home computer, your own computer, but you're on our network. So we're going to have full access to the stuff that you do.
Edge as well, and Moran brought it up earlier, as far as being able to sign into in the case of Edge, a Microsoft account. The enterprise can keep that secure because it's within the four walls of their secure cloud. And believe me, with me supporting browsers all these years with bookmarks and having to make sure they're backed up, boy, this is going to be just such a godsend now. Having Edge is the default browser to do that. Chrome is a little more challenging as far as where the bookmarks are and how they work. But I think a lot of enterprise don't want to use the Chrome based version of the bookmarks managers as far as storing through Chrome. Although in education they do it all the time too, because they're all using Chromebooks and they're using the Edge. They don't have a choice; they have to use a Chrome browser. So that's where the education lives. So it really all depends on the company and the business and what they're doing. But I'm finding that I'm pretty excited to support Edge going forward because of that. One of those things is bookmarks, because that's such a huge thing. And like Frank said, he's got pinned tabs everywhere. Well, now you've got your bookmarks. You're never going to have to worry about losing them because they're backed up over the cloud.
Andrew, you do a lot of surfing of the web and a lot of research for your articles and all. Anything that you use to facilitate that process, or as an extra tool set?
Let's see. I would say I use Safari for the most part. I use Firefox. I like Firefox. Like, I don't really use them for any particular reason. It just depends on what I'm literally just, what do I want to use today? I think Firefox is great just because there's more customization. There are a lot more extensions in Firefox. When it comes to privacy, for example, because that's just, what I write about. There's a website that I like to use called privacytools.io, and they have this list of Firefox configurations, and they have various things that you can stop Firefox from doing, like automatically collecting data, or I don't know, doing this or that thing. So I'd say it's a pretty healthy mixture of Safari and Firefox. Yeah.
But no third party extensions or anything like that.
Not a lot. I use Bitwarden for my password manager. Those are both in both browsers, Firefox and Safari. I use an ad blocker. There's a certain extension I use for downloading videos, and I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. I'll mention an extension that I use in Firefox. It's called Facebook Container, and what it does is it isolates your activity of Facebook from the rest of your web activity to prevent Facebook from being able to track you outside of the Facebook's website via third-party cookies. So I kind of like that because it's that's fine. They can see what I'm doing while I'm on Facebook, but I would prefer them not to be able to see what other things I do. I mean, I know Google can do that. I mean, they're already tracking it, but I thought that was a pretty cool plugin that's available with it too. I also use Instapaper. Instapaper's been around for a long time, and
I love Instapaper.
Yeah, and I have that in there to be able to add stories. I had forgotten about it for a while until Jeff, you and I were talking about it. I was like, oh God, I have Instapaper. God, I haven't been using it so long, but I'm back using it again. I find that to be an added bonus. So.
But Instapaper, if I remember correctly, is sort of like Flipboard for me. It's not, unless I don't understand the difference. It's not an extension. It's a bookmarklet. Is I think the term.
There's they changed it to an extension. It used to be a bookmarklet.
Oh, really?
Okay. Now it's an extension.
It's okay. That's interesting. Okay, because I'm not an Instapaper user, but I thought, okay, good to know. Brittany, I really want to hear from you on this topic because you deal with your clients who, are ADD people. And so the last thing they probably need is more stuff to distract them. But is there anything out there that is like the anti-distracting tool that helps them stay focused?
I mean, there are a lot of tools and blockers and things to like keep you out of stuff. Basically, they all die eventually. And so I don't actually keep very close tabs. It's sort of like when a client needs it, we go look it up, what still works. Like there are blockers, but I mean, I set up my personal systems before I was coaching when I was just managing my ADD, and I use Safari everywhere except when, something makes me use Chrome because I'm lazy and I just wanted the stuff to sync over, and I don't want to have to push the button to fill in the password. And yeah, I'm lazy. And they can't stop all the tracking, but they don't try to encourage it either. And it's just, I'm on my phone as much as I'm on my Mac. If we don't count Zoom. And if we don't count Zoom, way more on my phone or my iPad than on my Mac. And so I just need the thing that's going to work seamlessly everywhere. And that's going to be Safari. If somebody has a special need, we'll look it up. But in general, building habits around your computing is way better, since if you're really determined to get distracted, you can break through that stuff. Like if we can build habits instead that are healthier habits, then that's going to be a better win. Those other stopgaps to like keep me off Facebook after 9 p.m. or whatever, those are good when you're wanting to initially build the habit, but like in the long run, it's not going to be the thing. So they're okay. Let's get the thing figured out right now in emergency mode, and then build the habits on later.
Okay, I like that approach, and that makes perfect sense. And I guess you answered exactly the way I wanted, is that you use some of those things as a tool, as a training thing, as a crutch to build, but it's not the end solution to the issue you're trying to address.
Yeah. And like I said, like what we can do is get really good at building up that, I'm on downtime, 15 more minutes habit. And that's a real easy habit to accidentally build. And sometimes you do have to like up the game a little bit. And anyway, really pay attention to like, what are the habits I'm building long-term?
Right.
Yeah.
Jeff, I know you have probably every single browser on your machine stacked with all kind of add-ons.
Yeah, I'm with web browsers the way Guy is with microphones.
Oh my God.
Excuse me, but my web browser of choice currently is Edge, and critical plugins or extensions that I need to use with it. Hold on, I actually have a list up right now. Workona, so that I have proper vertical tab management that will carry over between devices. 1Password, Instapaper, and then after that, I have some others that are like really handy if you do a lot with like diving into websites. So like I have Clear Cache and Colorzilla and Window Resizer installed, which Window Resizer is really great if you want to see how your website looks on a computer versus a tablet versus a smartphone, lots of different brands and screen sizes, so that you can test for just to make sure everything looks correct on all the different sizes.
That's it.
Well, okay. I didn't go through everything because I didn't want to just like take over the show.
He also has
iCal floodgates.
Yeah, I mean, I have OneNote Web Clipper installed because OneNote, I think at this point, at least for me, is far superior to Evernote, and so I dump stuff into OneNote all the time. I have Loom installed so that I can do video capture directly in my web browser. I did install Google's opt-out extension for ad tracking. I have Google Docs Offline installed. Chuck, you taught me about Bumper. That's really great.
Yeah, I love Bumper.
Yeah,
I use it all the time.
What is that?
It's an app that masquerades as a web browser, and its sole purpose is to let you when you click on a link in something that's going to open a web browser, what it does is it goes to Bumper instead, which gives you a list of all the web browsers that you have, so that you can choose which browser you're going to open the link in.
Did they ever fix it so that it can auto detect which browser you want to use based on like URL rules? Because I was using Bumper and switched off of it because I was like, if I'm going to the same site every day, I should be able to put something in that says, don't ask me, just open it up in the browser that I always use.
I haven't messed with that because for same reason, it should just know. But I thought that they did an update in the last few months that actually added that in, but I'm not certain. When you have enough momentum in just doing it one way, it suddenly becomes harder. Maybe Brittany could help me with this. It becomes harder to change.
Momentum's a beast.
Yes, it is.
The lack thereof.
Yeah, ColorZilla is actually really cool. It lets you grab the color values for anything in a browser window, so you don't have to go and launch Apple's color meter to then go and find the color of something. It's just right there in your web browser.
Oh, I wish I'd known about that one about 2 months ago. I was not aware of that one.
Well, Chuck, when you're trying to sort stuff like this out, why don't you just shoot me a message? Because every time you do, I have the answer for whatever it is, because I've probably already installed it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. Interesting. And Jeff, do you notice any performance issues with all this stuff loaded in there?
No, but aside from like Racona, there's nothing that I'm running that's like actively doing something until I select it.
Okay.
It's Edge for me is just stunningly fast.
I agree.
Okay.
That was my question, Chuck, is whether these add-ons really slow the computer down. And then I was trying to look it up. I wouldn't even know how to do it. But do you think the extensions are slower on M1 compatible Mac that's running an M1 version of Chrome or Edge at this point? Do the extensions do something outside of the system?
Would they still be compatible?
They would be compatible under Rosetta, but Rosetta would be slower. And I'm wondering if that actually just slows down the browsing experience.
Jay, you seem to be chomping at the bit.
So similar to Bumper, I mentioned I switched. I use a tool called OpenIn, which does the exact same thing. The only difference is it does have that rule policy setting, so you can say, hey, if the URL has YouTube on it, go to this browser. If it has my website on it, go to this other browser. And that's important because I actually use a browser that no one's talked about here, called Sizey. Now, I don't use it all the time, or Sizzy. I don't know if it's Sizzy, Sizey, whatever. It's a setup browser. It is designed to give you multiple views of what you would see on a website. So as an app developer, again, we talked about people just designing for Chrome. Well, I can design for all of the viewports by just loading up whatever I'm looking at in Sizzy. I call it Sizey or whatever, but I can use that instead. And then it's like a dedicated box basically for just doing that. Now, I only go on local websites there. So if they're sending my data, whatever, they can get all the points to localhost port 8,000 all they want. That's fine. But the other tools that I use, I do use Chrome for basically 4 websites. They're all for work. And I just don't have enough momentum to want to change that, honestly. Like, I'm logged into my work account, doing all the work things. If they want to take that data, they can talk to my employer about that. That's not my problem nor my concern. On on Safari, 1Password, Honey, which I'm sure people who listen to podcasts have probably heard of Honey, Pocket Tube, which is a project I backed on Patreon, I believe now, that is all about making the YouTube experience give you what you're subscribed to instead of what YouTube kind of wants to keep feeding you, which is great. I use open keyword search for some automatic browser based rule URL opening. So if I want to open up a YouTube search, I just type in YT space blah 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 blah, or MacVoices, not to confuse the two, but then it just opens up a search for MacVoices and it's there. And then some screenshot stuff for just doing videos and whatnot. But I use a Pi-hole, and I use a Pi-hole because of all of the security discussions that we talk about for the last like several weeks now. But I noticed that the Pi-hole blocks trackers that Safari doesn't. And it also breaks most of my wife's little like ad-fed games, but you know, that's fine.
You better explain what a Pi-hole is.
So
folks that don't know.
Yes.
So a Pi-hole, originally the idea is you get a Raspberry Pi and you run a DNS server on the Raspberry Pi, and there's a service called Pi-hole that you can install and run locally. And basically it has a allow list and a deny list that is these sites, if they come up, if there's a request for this information, just do not let it in. Just drop the connection and nothing else there. I'm actually using my old Mac Mini as my Pi-hole server, and it's just running on Docker, doing what it does, living its best life. So I just, whenever my Mac Mini is on, I point my DNS to it and I surf the web. And every once in a while, I'll go in and look and go, oh man, that's thousands of trackers that Apple, like Safari, never had the opportunity to block because it never got to them. So it's always funny when people talk about the hundreds and thousands of privacy trackers that have been blocked for them. I got 11, but it's like I don't worry about it because I know that if I open up the link for my Pi-hole, then it's like, oh, we blocked 3,000 trackers in the last week.
Wow. Interesting. Anybody else have any other things that they use that they want to mention? I didn't call on everybody, but I was trying to hit who the people I thought were the biggest users. Excuse me.
I'm totally going to interrupt for a second.
Okay.
So Jay, I've never set up Pi-hole because I was concerned about degrading web performance. Has that been an issue for you at all?
There have been a couple of sites that just will not load, and it's usually sites that are like, we see you're running an ad blocker. We really wish you would not run an ad blocker, but can you please not run your ad blocker? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. And I mean, hey, I go find that information somewhere else, but it's few and far between. And I guess before people get mad at me, my ad blocking, I would rather just give someone my money. If it's that serious, I'll give them my money. I don't necessarily need them to throw ads down my throat or trackers either. So the sites that I have problems with are the sites that I don't necessarily want to be on anyway.
Cool.
Ad trackers, call some names, guys, because I've noticed that's something you've all talked about the category, but you really haven't named any names.
Let me search the Mac Observer really quick.
Google, double click. I mean, those are the two big names that come to mind immediately.
How about on iOS and iPadOS? Anything that you're using there? And I am specifically thinking of
when you say names, are you talking about software to block trackers, or you talk because they're listing the trackers?
I was listing the companies that
right,
are notorious for creating trackers.
I know, and I'm not sure that's what Jeff was asking. I mean, Chuck was asking.
Yeah, I was asking what ad blockers. If I said trackers, I'm sorry. I meant ad blockers.
I'm not using it.
I use Wiper.
I'm
And
familiar with that one.
I assume Ghostery is still really popular.
Ghostery is still
I used
popular.
to use that, but I stopped. Wiper works really well, and talk about making the web faster. Unbelievable. I started using it because of one website, and then it's like I do feel kind of guilty, but wow, it just makes everything a lot faster. And then the other extension I use that nobody's mentioned is Stop the Madness. Anybody else use that?
Never heard of that.
No, I've heard of it.
Really? It's from Jeff Johnson. Some of you may follow him on Twitter. He's pretty active on Twitter. So let's see. It says here, stops websites from disabling command click, command keys, context menus, drag and drop. It's kind of like does all kinds of, stops all kinds of sort of annoying things that Safari does, and you can configure it. And it's a little indie. It's one guy in I think in Madison, Wisconsin. So that's pretty. It's not a blocker. It's not. But it just. Well, yeah. So it's like, for example, like some websites, it is sort of a blocker because it goes in and it tweaks. Like some websites will like make it so you can't command click, for example, and so it'll take that out.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, but I'll go check it out.
It's been around for like maybe 3 years, and it's like $5 or something.
Well, I'm going to give the group here some homework. Some of you have been putting some things in the chat, but I'm going to ask all of you to send me a list of, and if you can, with the URLs to them, so I can make the show notes as complete as possible for folks, because there are a lot of really interesting tools here and a lot of options out there to enhance your browser usage, protect yourselves, just a little bit of everything. There's one last category, though, that I wanted to ask about because I'm curious, and that is any kind of bookmark manager. Is that something that we've gone beyond? I mean, I assume everybody still uses bookmarks, and I'm going to throw out one that I use that is not exactly a plugin or anything. It's a separate application called History Hound from St. Clair Software that I love, because sometimes you know that there's that website, and for the life of you, no matter what search engine you use, you can't find it again. And History Hound, I have mine set, I think, to save the last 300 days worth of bookmarks. And so it's amazing how useful that's been, and how many things I can go back and find that I just haven't been able to find any other way. But I'm curious, is anybody else using any other bookmark managers?
I'd probably close some tabs if I had History Hound.
Well, maybe we can get St. Clair to donate you a copy, Jim. And
Chuck, do you mean literal bookmarks? Like the
he's a nice
feature
guy.
where you like bookmark it and give it a name and stuff?
Well, yeah, or Brittany, there's some others out there that will let you manage those. So yeah, but I mean, why do you ask?
I didn't think anybody used bookmarks anymore, honestly.
I still use it some. And also
Wow.
Devon Think.
Oh, Devon.
Yeah,
Think.
that's a repository when you're like storing information for a particular thing. But a bookmark I usually think of as I go to this website all the time, so I save a bookmark of it. Is that not what you mean?
Yeah.
Because you just type it in again. I mean, I have bookmarks. They're all like 10 years old, and I should go through and delete them all because they're from back when I used bookmarks. But like,
why would you go to that level of work? You can search bookmarks, so
you can search history. Like when you do a search in the Univar, it includes your history.
True.
Mm-hmm. And so there, like that's a thing. But
Chrome and Google already knows where I want to go, so I don't need to put a bookmark.
Right.
There you go.
Having a thing to manage and save history, like that could be potentially really useful. Or if you're doing a particular research project, like I would want to save some version of it, like in Devon Think. But that's not really a bookmark. That's sort of saving the information as opposed to the link, right?
I mean, I use kind of Pinboard for that, which I know that's kind of a blast from the past, but I think even
Still a
then,
thing.
like I have Hook, which I use as like a application, file, and URL bookmark, which is a whole nother conversation to have that we don't have enough time for today. But I mean,
I wanted, after I heard your podcast last week, I want to hear more about that at some point.
well, we'll have to beg Chuck to let me ramble for an hour.
All right, you got it, Jay. Coming next on Mac Voices, Jay rambles for
all
an hour.
Jay.
Yeah,
Ramble
all Jay
for
all
an
the time.
hour.
Only
But
Chuck
Right
did
after
show
this
title.
commercial.
But
Yeah.
I do think that Brittany's to a point now. Brittany has a point where it's like we're not necessarily. It's so easy to get to the information now that we don't necessarily go, oh, I need to save this so that I can get back to it. I mean, most of the
And
time,
I say that
we
with
just-
somebody with multiple pin tabs.
Yeah.
But that's a pin tab and it feels far more accessible than a bookmark. And there were just too many clicks away, I think, for bookmarks, or it took up screen real estate.
See, this is fascinating because I have some sites that I might use, let's just say for travel, that if I'm going to Boston, okay, that what was the name of that touring company, or what was the name of that, harbor cruise or whatever. And so I will save things like that I might have a very limited use for, or just a use once or twice a year. I mean, obviously I don't, because I really hadn't thought about it this way, Brittany, but if there's a website that I get a lot of information from, I'll probably load its RSS feed into my reader and access it that way. So yeah, the idea of bookmarks, I guess it just depends on how you look at it. Or
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about that little page that you get on your iPhone when you open a new tab, and it's like, these are, your favorites or whatever. There's some advantage to maybe updating those. With like, I visit this frequently, and then I say that like as a mobile user. But I don't know.
I have, I guess this is, it's in the bookmarks menu, but I set up favorites, and I actually set up I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 4 of them
but
are
past
menus.
about 6, right?
4 of them are menus.
Huh?
4 of them are pop-down menus.
So you actually do dig deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, I have done the thing where you like organize your bookmarks. It was many years ago, and I realized, I never actually look at these. So
I need a search bar. I'm not going to hunt through stuff. I can't. My brain does not allow me to do that.
Mm-mm.
Hey, Warren has to go. He has a hard out. Warren, thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, stay out of trouble if you can.
See you later.
See you, Warren.
Yeah. I feel obligated, to explain one thing though that I do with bookmarks, and that is that I will put them in a folder like that. Then I'll put the folder in my menu bar, or in my tab bar, so that I can click that folder, and at the very bottom it'll say open all in new Windows, I think is the way it says, and they'll all pop open. Now, why would I want to do that? Because I have like 7 sites that are involved in the publishing of MacVoices. And so I want those all to open, because if nothing else, they serve as a good mnemonic device that, hey, I've got to go to this page to update my website. I go to this page to update Facebook, this page to send them to Twitter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm using bookmarks in that way. It's not exactly the traditional way, but it suddenly opens up a workspace for me, if you will. And then when I've finished publishing the shows, I close it and it's gone, and I wait till the next day and then pop it up a clean one and start again. Mm-hmm. So that's a really useful thing.
See, I use it as a time suck, sort of like, like Brittany was saying, that there's stuff you haven't used like in a dozen years. I have probably not purged my bookmarks in over a dozen years. So it's sort of my equivalent of electronic bubble wrap. Because what I'll do is I'll go into the sidebar, I'll hit this one app that I'll go, I remember I used to get photos there and free royalty music and all this stuff. And you hit it, and if it comes up 404, delete it.
Mm-hmm.
Should have a script for that.
That
And
takes
I
the
think
fun
that
out of it.
there's a lot of good bookmarking tools that are still out there that'll take that into account. I know Pinboard will like just remove dead sites. What's the other one that everyone loves? Raindrop and Good Links both do that as
Pinboard?
well.
Okay.
So if you're
I
like,
need
if
to-
you're just adding stuff to them, they're like, no, that site's dead now, so we're just going to remove that for you. We'll let you know, but we're not going to keep it in your list if it's not working.
I didn't know
A
Pinboard was
pinboard,
still
okay.
around. That's
Oh yeah,
that's interesting.
that's where all the nerds hang out.
Oh, I think he just rejected me right there. Thank you, Jay.
So, Chuck, I just realized I don't even know how to view bookmarks in Edge. That shows you how much I use bookmarks. but I do a lot of what you do, I think, in Workona, because I can set up tab groups, and so the tabs that I need for a specific task, they can just be in their own little group, and then they're just suspended until I go into that group and open up the tab, and then they come back to life, and I can do whatever.
So you're accomplishing the same thing, just with a different tool in a different way.
Right.
Huh.
And like I said, I just realized I was just looking in the menu bar in Edge, trying to figure out how would I see bookmarks? Do I even have any? I honestly have no idea if there's any bookmarks there.
Of course, Edge calls them favorites. So,
Oh, see, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Step one to finding bookmarks is Google. How do I find bookmarks?
And then they'll track me.
Well, okay. It turns out there's favorites, just like you said, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing.
yeah, you can go in once you open up favorites, then you can go into open favorites page. Then it brings you to the like what it does with Chrome, Edge : / favorites. Then that's where you keep them if you edit them and manage them. But like you said, you have none. So there's nothing there.
Yeah. So that awesome tip that you just gave will be useful for other people. And I've actually already purged it from my memory.
What was that again?
What?
Uh-huh. Okay, so last question for the group, because this just occurred to me, and it's inspired by Jim. So Jim has 100 tabs open.
And I had 12 more since this podcast started.
Oh, good. So we're now
They're self-replicating.
This is
We
like
are
the
the
stock
board.
market. Just
What can I say?
invest a
except
little.
you're welcome.
Yeah, triples. That's even better.
Hi, my name is Frank, and I have bookmarks for years.
Hi, Frank.
So is there a way for Jim to save his 100 bookmarks to a file should anything happen to his computer?
Yes, that is a perfect segue. I mentioned that in the chat, my system was terrible. Jim would probably scream because I think he mentioned why go to all that work. So for my bookmarking system, like in my workflow, I mostly use my iPad for a lot of things. And so I do save a lot of bookmarks and favorites in Safari because, that's just built in. It's handy. But I created a shortcut that will also, if I wanted to save a tool or a cool website I found for later, I created a shortcut that will add that, like the website URL and the title of it, and save that to a plain text file that I can store in iCloud, basically. I wanted to kind of move to that system because I thought it was, like I said, I do store bookmarks in Safari, but I thought plain text files, that's something I can control. I thought that was a good backup system. And so there's this other shortcut that I build where if I'm trying to recall something later, I can search for the file name or whatever, and share that file to the share menu, and then have another shortcut that automatically finds the URL in that and then opens that in Safari, and that's it. So I think that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think it is.
You need Instapaper.
Yeah.
I did used to use Instapaper, yeah. I guess I just like I said, I think I just like the idea of text files that are under my own control. Like, not that I plan to leave Apple operating systems anytime soon, but plain text, like all OSs support that.
Webb in the chat room is indicating that we may be showing our age because we're asking about bookmark managers. But thanks, Webb.
Let's ask Webb about his age.
Only somebody really old would ask that question.
Thanks, Guy. You're not helping. But Craig brings up an interesting point. Is it because we're bookmarking more actual pages than we are websites? He says he marks pages in Instapaper more than an actual website. And I think that may be sort of what Andrew was saying, that you're not bookmarking the site, you're bookmarking something specific within a site.
Well, actually,
no, I think he means he's saving the whole page, like I do that in DevonThink.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's kind of what I meant. Like, I don't know, for example, I have a bookmark where, there's this online tool where it automatically, it's like an AI tool. It automatically upscales your image and, cleans it up and whatever. And so what I'm doing is kind of like that, like hoarding. I'm not saving specific web pages. I'm just saving this website where I can do something. And then if I need to do something in the future, I can try to remember that, or maybe recommend it to someone else. Like, hey, this is cool. I'll save it for later.
I would say something, but I have every tweet that I like automatically added to Pinboard, so I'm like not much better.
And I clean out my tabs a lot regularly. It just, whenever I do that, they grow back pretty quickly. So they're, it's sort of rolling. By the way, Safari, now for several years now, it keeps that when you quit and relaunch. And so it just comes back and boom, there you are. That used to be a problem because it would forget whenever you quit. And so I would be like, I would, never quit Safari for months, or reboot my computer. It's like, oh, I've got to save all the tabs before I reboot. But now it's like, no problem.
You keep Safari running for months. I mean, it should have crashed multiple times.
Well, sometimes it would, but I very rarely have Safari crash anymore.
By the way, if it exists, I have not found the auto close tabs for Big Sur. So Apple, next operating system, please.
Oh, I'm sure
you're gonna have to close all of them when you close the app, but I don't want it to do that. I just want to close the ones I haven't looked at in a month.
There has to be a utility out there somewhere, Brittany.
I'm sure there is.
Would do that.
I just think it should be included like it is on iOS. That's all.
Give them time. Folks, thank you. This has been really enlightening. And I have to say, the bookmark thing really surprised me. I didn't realize that it was not being used as much, if at all, by so many of you. So very interesting. Or maybe just do what Jim does, just leave everything open all the time.
I don't do that. And I do have, I have URLs in DevonThink and in Yojimbo and in Notes, and
I haven't heard Yojimbo.
I want to defend Jim. I end up with a lot of tabs open on too. That's why I want it to auto close for me.
In things, a lot of times I'll be like, oh, this is for something I need to do, but I'm not going to do it, for a year or whatever. And so I've got, a page in things that's all these. Here's resources I'm going to need to do or may want to do in a future version of Panorama, and here's the URL on how to do that, which I so later I'll come back and, oh, okay, now I'm going to do that project.
Craig in the
Jim,
chat
I just
room
want you
asked-
to know how much the productivity coach in me is not saying anything about that. We can talk later.
Oh,
Okay.
Jim has an
I'm
appointment.
so
Well,
curious
then
about
he
your use of
starts
things
running.
now.
After dark.
Yeah, well, Jim has an appointment with Brittany tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Be there, Jim.
That's right.
We're
Craig
going to
in the
meet up
chat
at the
room.
next OC Automators meetup.
Craig in the chat room asks, have you checked out My Mind? I don't know what My Mind is. Does anybody know what My Mind is?
I lost mine years ago.
Yeah, I was to say nobody wants to check my mind.
Well,
It's just,
yeah. So Craig, enlighten us when you can. Let's get out of here, folks. Let's go around the room, let folks know where they can find you, and then I guess I've got to go and clean out some bookmarks.
Make them go away.
So you guys have been turning your cameras on and off, so now everybody's jumbled completely up, and I'm so confused. So I'm just going to take the screen as it is, as it exists now. So Guy, that puts you up first.
Yes, you can find me over on the Twitters. I am MacParrot and VertShark. VertShark.com is the website. MyMac.com is the podcast, as well as Mac to the Future Go that I do on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. with Warren and Dave. What else? That's pretty much it.
Great. Thanks for being here, Guy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jim Ray, the man with more tabs than he can count.
somebody wrote an Apple script for me once to count them, but
Super tabs.
I lost it. I had
The
it for a
fact that
while.
you need an Apple script to count your tabs, Jim.
That's a
really
cry
true.
for help. It's a cry for help.
And one of my programming buddies, he wrote an Apple script, and at the time he gave it to me, I had 84. So
I have a Brett script to close just the Zoom tabs.
But it's not that many windows. You could have, you go into Stack Overflow and okay, link. There's a bunch of stuff. 10 tabs on one topic, and then you fix that bug and you close that window, and there you go. So anyway, if you need to organize things other than URLs, then you should go check out my panorama database at proview.com. That's my day job. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter at ProviewJim.
Great. Thanks for being here, Jim, and thanks for being such a good sport. We love picking on you. As if you couldn't tell. Craig in the chat room, his follow-up said, my mind is kind of like Instapaper, but for everything. mymind.com. So we'll check that out.
I thought Instapaper was Instapaper for everything.
Except for the stuff that my mind is the Instapaper for.
Oh.
Okay, you guys go talk to Craig. Brittany, you had one last cheat that you want. You called it a cheat. One last cheat to share before we go.
Oh, because I love doing everything from my phone that's possible. I love that you can close tabs on your Mac from your phone. It's not always perfectly up to date, but because you just swipe to close them.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't even thought about that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Nicely
It's
done.
the exercise I get most days.
Safari. Only Safari, obviously.
Right. So where can folks catch up with you?
On Twitter for nerdy things, I'm ADD Liberator. For the other productivity stuff I do, the website is conquer.consulting. And thanks, Chuck. It's been fun.
It has been fun.
We're picking on the wrong person, and now I am getting all the names mixed up.
That's all right. That was my grandfather's nickname, actually. So it's a blast from the past. Mr. Miller, thank you for being here. As always, lots of good information coming from you. And we have an hour on the book sometime here soon to let you ramble.
Let's do it. But until then, I guess I will let Jim know that if you're looking for another Apple script that can do anything with your tabs, then let me know. We'll plan something. But then also, I asked y'all to go check out the YouTube channel, and y'all y'all turn water into wine over there. I went from 80 subscribers to 200. So thank you so much for that. There should be a video out as we're recording this tomorrow, so it'll already be out by the time this is there. So yeah, there's more of that on the way. So I've I'm waiting for YouTube to give me my vanity URL. But until then, kjaymiller.com. There will be a link to the YouTube channel at the very top because apparently that's what I do now.
You're not sure, Jay?
I was kind of shell shocked. I wasn't prepared.
Great. Hey, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. The vanilla man himself, Mr. Frank Petrie. Where can folks find you, Frank?
On Twitter, you can find me at fpetrie. On Instagram at PHRANKY. I have a blog, ympnow.com, which this week I made up a graphic for the one color they didn't make for the iMac, the M1 iMac.
Base gray.
No.
Tangerine orange.
Beige.
Oh.
I thought, let's go full circle. So I made a beige one. And also, I write for a little thing called Screencast Online once a month.
Great. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Andrew Orr, thanks. Thank you for showing up and bringing the grass behind you with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You can find me at macobserver.com. I'm writing a lot about, Apple, privacy, security, technology in general. Speaking of security, as we were talking about in the beginning of the hour, you can find me and Kelly Gamont. We have a podcast every Friday called Security Friday, where we talked about such things like we talked about before, like, how secure is Chrome and what is Facebook up to nowadays. And you can also find me on Twitter at Andrew or Not.
Great. Thanks so much, Andrew. Really appreciate you coming. Jeff Gamet is still looking for bookmarks in Edge.
Yeah, there's none. I think bookmarks in Edge is just a myth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, somebody had to make that determination. I'm glad we did it here.
Yeah. Well, now people know. Yeah.
Where can we find you, Jeff?
Twitter and Instagram. I am JGamet both places. On Tuesdays, you can find me here. And on Thursdays, you can find me on The Big Show. Fridays on The Mac Show. And now on YouTube. I'm JGamet on YouTube. So youtube.com/JGamet.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Jeff. Appreciate it.
It's always a blast. Thanks for letting me back on.
There was a discussion.
The check in bounce?
Not this week.
Last but absolutely not least, the enterprise man himself, Mr. David Ginsberg. Thanks for being here, David.
I don't know how that happened, but I guess okay. But that's good. You could find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com, a podcast. And you also could find me on the Mac Show on Fridays, usually, unless I go to Cubs games, which I did last week. And you also can find me on Mac to the Future Go livecast with Guy and Warren. And you find me here on Tuesday nights. And you can find me. And Twitter, DaveG65. Thanks as always for having me.
NCC 1701, David.
No bloody A, B, C, or D.
Did he get it? Did he?
Nice guy.
Yeah, Star Trek. The Enterprise.
There you go. Enterprise man. There you go. See? Nah, never mind.
Thank you.
I'll take spaceships for $300, Alex.
I was trying. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices Live, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you join us. We have a lot of fun every Tuesday, and you could be part of it. Thanks to the chat room. We appreciate you guys being here too and throwing in the comments and feedback. It's always appreciated. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Thank you, guys. That was fun.
You said you even beat what I said. I said be an hour and a half. It's almost 2 hours.
I know. Oh my God, it is not. Holy cow!
It's not over 2 hours though. I think my faith
so
in you
much
is
trouble.
justified, Chuck.
I'll tell you,
This show's like a soap opera now. We're on daily.
it does seem to be that way. I'm going to have to set up a separate feed, Frank. Oh
Mac
man.
Voices Live, brought to you by Palmolive.
Or you start releasing episodes over the weekend too.
Oh God, no! I don't have a
Ooh.
life now. What do you just want to take all of it from me?
Binge watching Mac Voices Live
Yeah,
on YouTube.
that was a good discussion, though. That was
Very
a
good.
really good discussion.
Good topic.
And I see you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you all for throwing some stuff in the chats. I'll try to get everything mined out of there. If there's anything that's not there, just send it to me separately. Because the chat room, who was it? I think Webb was saying, a list would be helpful because you guys ripped off a lot of stuff.
That's why I've got all those
we
extra
paid for
tabs
it.
open now.
All those bookmarks.
I got all those web pages for the stuff we talked about.
There you add those to the bookmarks.
You go.
Shout out to Jeff, the enabler / great friend, who sent me AirPods or AirTags.
Oh, cool. You
that's
got
right.
him.
That's right.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's awesome that we
fun.
have the technology that that you could say, I just need these like right away, and what, 12 hours later they're in the mail.
Yeah.
We got our 4-pack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Takes care of me.
Good
And
job.
I owe him a drink whenever we meet each other in person for the first time.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
See,
Mac
that
Stock
makes-
2022.
That makes
That's
me
right.
feel
That's
so
right.
good, Brittany, because we've all gotten to, let's see. Andrew, have you and I met in person?
Nope.
I didn't think so. No, I didn't.
Yeah,
think so.
so far I haven't been to any CES or Dub in person.
Yeah.
Same.
Apparently Jim, even though we
So
don't
we're all
actually remember
virtual.
it. And Chuck, that's what I got here in terms of
Yeah.
in person since Kelly's not here
Apparently,
today.
Brittany and I met 2 years ago, and we didn't realize it until today. Seriously.
That's memorable.
Brittany, hadn't you been to Mac Stock?
No. Just
Whatever.
Any
virtual.
of-
Met you.
Any of the last of the 7 Macworld Expos?
No, I never went to one of those.
Okay.
No.
I kept
And I've
thinking
only-
I'll go after I finish grad school, and then they didn't have them.
Yeah. How did that work out?
Yeah. And I know
Well, at
Jay,
least you made it through grad school.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did do
Jay,
that.
you and I have not met in person. We've just met through MacStock.
Yep. And I was,
yeah.
I'll be at more events, probably not WWDC because we don't really do much there work wise, but I'll find an excuse to go up there. We have an office there. I'll just go visit someone.
Yeah.
Where?
Good.
And
Let's go to
And,
AltConf.
Yeah. Could go to all.
Have our own alt conf.
oh, in San Jose, you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, we have an office in Mountain View, and I'll run around and say hi for 5 minutes and then go hang out with everybody.
And we'll get you out to Mac Stock next year.
AltConf
Yeah,
is
Oh,
running-
yeah.
Yep. I'm going to say goodnight to the live stream. Thanks for being
Bye,
here,
everybody.
guys. Really, really
Yep.
appreciate
Bye,
it.
live stream.
Good to
Bye,
see you.
live stream.
See you next
Bye.
next time. We'll try to keep Guy from singing next time.
No, you won't happen.
Won't happen.
No.
Okay. Sorry, live stream.